Yo, what is up, guys? Cool412 the Fox here. Now, anyways, I just want to say is that I had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope everyone did too. If you guys had a great Thanksgiving, let me know in the comments area below, and I want to welcome you all to another exciting edition of a Halloween Nightmare on Friday the 13th. It's just, man, so far after reviewing Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, all I could say is they were both a lot of great films, and films I would never forget. And speaking of fourth films, Part 4, or as people call it, the final chapter, Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. And to be honest, it's not the final chapter. Because deep down in my mind, there's no stopping Jason anytime soon. Which we will get to in just a moment. But anyways, only thing I could say is, let's get straight to the review of Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. The movie begins by taking us straight from the storytelling from the second film, and of course, clips from what happened from the first film to the third film, and opening up to the final chapter title card, an exploding mask. But yet, like I said earlier, this is not the final chapter. But as far as I'm concerned, Jason Voorhees is one of the best characters of all time throughout the horror franchise, along with Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, knowing they are the originators of the horror film franchise, along with other horror films which I will review sooner or later in the near future. But anyways, after the opening critics, it takes place to what happened from Part 3 of Friday the 13th. Jason was taken out from the third film, and of course, it shows the police officers around the cabin and the barn, and everywhere in between, leading into the whole ordeal, where it takes them straight to the hospital, where our final girl survived with her family in peace. But I don't want to talk about what happened in part of this film because, yeah, rules are rules. What can you do? But anyways, the propaganda is that what happened throughout the film is that after Jason was brought into the medical ward, which is the hospital after being taken out from Part 3, and that led to where Jason, on the other hand, everyone thought he was gone and destroyed. More likely taken out, but as it got to the point of the film where the nurse was in the medical ward until the doctor scared her, and when the news came on about what happened throughout Part 3, that led to where, yeah, let's not talk about it, because rules are rules. Anyways, it was where Jason's arm moved and scared the living daylights out of the nurse. So she left the room while I knocked out Jason, was waiting for the right time to strike. But when the doctor, later on in the film, was trying to go through the medical notes and everything else, Jason awoke and took him out from behind with a certain same thing, and it may be a hint from this, but, "Hello, I want to play a game." But yet, he took him out from behind, but while in the other room, the nurse was trying to go over medical records and everything else in the storage unit. But that was until Jason also took her out from out of nowhere. And then we cut to what looked like to be the woods, leading into a cabin of a family that lives there, and our final boy, Tommy Jarvis. Yeah, Tommy Jarvis, I think, is one of the greatest characters throughout the Friday the 13th franchise, but only appeared in both Part 4 through 5 and 6. But we never saw him again. And I'll get to that in just a moment. So, anyways, Tommy was playing video games while wearing a mask. And I gotta admit, this kid has created a lot of great masks and a lot of great props for horror movies. And he's actually really cool. Then we cut to a couple of young teenagers. Let's just say that they were a couple of young guns trying to get to another cabin in the middle of nowhere. But then, I don't want to talk about what happened in the scene. Let's just say a hitchhiker was trying to get a ride. And after disrespecting her, she did not take it lightly. But while she went to get something to eat, Jason took her out. And then we cut back to the cabin, where Tommy was getting everything in order. And everything was set in place. And then we see the tombstone of Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother. And let's just say, I believe it was the last time Pamela was ever mentioned throughout the film franchise. But deep down in my mind, Pamela Voorhees was the original. And her son, I believed, lived up to the mantle, no matter what happened throughout the franchise. But anyways, the propaganda is that throughout this film, that was where they made it to the cabin next door to Tommy Jarvis's family's home. And he was hoping to make friends, but however, let's not talk about what happened, because rules are rules. What can you do? But anyways, we then cut to where it was nighttime and everyone was having a good time. And Tommy saw from the window, but his mother walked in, acting like he was asleep. So she closed all the blinds. And anyways, moving on to the next scene. That was where everyone went for a swim and had a good time. But I don't want to talk about what they did, so because I don't want to get into trouble, because rules are rules. What can you do? Anyways, that was where, in the scene, they were all having a good time and they met up with a couple of friends. And that was where Tommy and his sister were trying to get into town to the grocery store to get what he needed from the store. But when he wanted to try to catch up with the others that checked into the cabin next door to them, but his sister was just like, nope. So she told him to leave and went to the car. And after they left, that was where they were having car trouble. But when they were having car trouble, that was where the next character of the film was the brother of our final girl from part 1 to part 2. And this guy, I was stunned out of my mind. That was where it led to bad to worse. We then cut back to Jason, who was already in the woods, waiting for the right time to strike. But then that was where, more practical jokes and more amazing ways that they think was having fun. But however, in my mind, I was like, what are you doing? I think that joke went too far. But anyways, in my mind, after seeing all of that, I get it that sometimes pulling jokes are fun, like pranks or anything. But sometimes you gotta understand, these jokes and pranks can always get out of hand or anything like that. So my recommendation is, make sure people are okay with the prank, but don't take it too far. Or they won't take it lightly. Anyways, we then cut back to where Tommy Jarvis and his sister got help from the guy, and the car was working again. But when they got back to the house, Tommy showed him all the masks he made, and the mechanical one that looked like something for a movie prop. And to my knowledge, Tommy Jarvis, I think, was an amazing artist when it came to making masks or anything else for horror movie props. This kid should have been, I think, an artist or anything like that. But anyways, moving on. That was when we cut back to the cabin and Jason was outside. And that led to bad to worse, where Jason was outside, waiting for the right time to strike. And I don't want to talk about it, but after all that time they had, and that was when Jason took out one guy asking about the corkscrew, and then Jason took him out. And by the time in one of the other scenes, Jason then took out one of the friends that I think was like sisters or something, and right as she was about to leave, Jason took her out from behind and she went face first into the house. While back into the house, while the other parts were kind of... I just don't want to talk about it. Just, my gosh. And what can you do? Rules are rules. But anyways, one of the other guys were watching some kind of movie from a mini projector. And it's not like the mini projectors we have of today. And it was an old wind-up one from footage. And as he was laughing his socks off from what he was seeing, then that was where Jason took him out from behind of the projector screen. But yeah, this next part I really don't want to talk about because, rules are rules. Anyways, he thought that one of his friends were coming in, but then it was Jason who took him out. And grabbed him by his face and took him out. But with one bare hand from out of nowhere. But then that's where it led to bad to worse. While every other character was taken out, that was where we cut back to Tommy Jarvis and his sister looking for their mom, wondering where she was. And I think if I knew better, I think Jason took her off screen, took her out off screen, but we never saw what happened to their mother. But whatever it is, it's kind of shocking, but to this day it's still a mystery. But anyways, that's where it leads to the whole ordeal where Tommy's sister was looking at the tent where the final girl of Part 2's brother came in and was just like, "What the heck are you doing here?" And she was asking the same thing. And then we cut back to the cabin where I believe it was the sister or something looking for the others, but when she looked around, it was already too late. She saw everyone taken out. She tried to run, but Jason already took her out from out of nowhere. But anyways, that's when he shared the newspaper articles and revealed to be the brother of the final girl from Part 1 and Part 2. And he wanted answers and was trying to get his revenge on Jason. But earlier I forgot to mention, when he came back to the tent, his rifle was taken out and so was everything else he had. Only thing he had left was his machete. But then that led to where they realized Tommy was in danger, so they ran back to the cabin, tried to call for help, but however, Jason took out the phone line. And I have to admit, it's the same approach his mother did. to take out the phone lines to prevent anyone from calling for help. But whatever the reason is, just like mother, like son. But I guess Jason really learned a lot from his mom over the years. And I felt bad for the poor guy. But anyways, that led to where they ran back to the same cabin where everyone was taken out. And he tried to see if there was a phone to call for help. But when she went back upstairs, her foot got stuck at the bottom of the steps. And then Jason was down there trying to take her out, but then the fight was on. The brother of the final girl from part 1 and part 2 going at it with Jason, but Jason took him out. As she got free, she was running for it. But Tommy Jarvis's dog ran right through the window. And yeah, I didn't want to talk about what happened in the other part of the film, why one of the other individuals were outside, because let's just say, yeah, Jason took her out from the water, and no, I don't want to talk about it. It was too brutal and kind of, yeah. Anyways, that led to where Tommy Jarvis saw the newspaper article on Jason, and after the sister ran right through the window, like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, she fell and landed safely on her back, it looked like, and she was still breathing. But when Jason looked down, he realized she was still alive. But in my honest opinion, it looked like something straight out of Undertaker versus Mankind, when Undertaker threw Mankind off the top of the cell. Like, good God almighty. But yet, forgive me if I'm talking wrestling here, but it's part of what I grew up around. Well, the horror movie franchise is also something I grew up around too. But anyways, by the time she was okay, she ran back to her home to find Tommy to get out of there. But Jason already made it. And she was fighting back with the machete and other things she could find around the house. But then Tommy came down looking like a younger Jason with his head trimmed, trying to get Jason to remember. But then Tommy Jarvis's sister from out of nowhere hit Jason right in the face with the machete, taking off his hockey mask to reveal his face for the first time. Just like how it happened in part 3. But then, as he was about to try to get his machete back, it hit his hand, and then Tommy took out Jason. And then Tommy was annihilating Jason with the machete. And I was like, realizing this is the end of Jason here. I was like, in my mind, like, nope, it's not the end. And after taking out Jason with the machete, Tommy's sister pulled him off and calmed him down. Then we cut to the end of the film where Tommy's sister was being questioned by the police and doctor. And Tommy came in, hugged his sister, and looked at the camera at the end of the film, realizing it was the end of Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. And man, after watching this film, I was immediately stunned about the whole ordeal. But to be dead honest, my gosh. I've seen a lot of great Friday the 13th films over the years, but none were compared to this one. And I feel like this shouldn't have been the end of Jason, but luckily, it's not the end of the road for the Friday the 13th franchise. But anyways, that about wraps it up here for this edition of A Halloween Nightmare on Friday the 13th. And I gotta admit, throughout this franchise, I'm still stunned out of my mind that they changed the story up, but however, too stunned to realize the whole ordeal. And I give this film a solid 10 out of 10. And combined with the return of Michael Myers and the Dream Master of A Nightmare on Elm Street, that's a total of 30 in this category. But anyways, join me next time as we reveal the 5th films of Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, so you guys do not miss another amazing, more great content like this. And if you guys have any other horror movies suggestions for me to review, please let me know on which franchise you want me to review in the comment area below. And anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to hit that thumbs up so you guys don't miss any, so that way you guys can see more amazing content like this. But anyways, be sure to tell my friends I said, what's up?